Have had very good Washington sources of information, perhaps a little too good, to know about me and the assignment I'd recently completed, a job with political overtones. It had been a cooperative venture anyway, with a lot of agents involved. Nevertheless, the success of our mission had apparently saved Big Bill Hazeltine's bacon in some way, and he'd been aching to show his gratitude to somebody, and I'd been elected. He'd insisted on arranging for me to spend a week learning about real ocean fishing at a private club, where he'd said the billfish were so thick you hardly dared go swimming for fear of being accidentally perforated by a passing marlin or casually skewered by a sail. Walker's Cay, pronounced Key just like in Florida, is the northernmost inhabited point in the Bahama Islands, which, in case you didn't know, were part of a foreign country or possession called the British West Indies, or BWI, lying at its nearest some 40-odd miles east of Miami. I hadn't known, and it came as a big surprise to me. Somehow, never having been there, I'd had the vague impression that the Bahamas were located way down south of Cuba in the Caribbean somewhere, or maybe far out east in the Atlantic in the neighborhood of Bermuda. Actually, Walker's Key, although off to the north a bit, turned out to be barely an hour's plane ride from the airport at Fort Lauderdale, just up the Florida coast from Miami. The plane was a clumsy-looking and not very speedy flying boat, a private craft belonging to my hosts-to-be. Rather to my disappointment, it didn't sit down on the water upon arrival, but put down its wheels again and landed on the paved strip that took up a large part of the little island. The rest of the limited real estate was mostly devoted to the clubhouse, with its grounds, swimming pool, cottages, and service buildings, and by the marina and its facilities. To let us know we were really landing on foreign soil, there was a black Bahamian customs gent to greet us, but we'd already filled out the simple entry form on the plane, and the pilot took care of the rest of the formalities. All that seemed longer ago than yesterday morning. After a day and a half on the water, I'd got into the swing of this angling existence, and all I'd had on my mind until a moment ago was fish. Now I had to figure out how to get out of here quickly without causing comment, and locate a moderately safe phone, and call Washington. What I'd just received was the Make Contact at Once signal, which implies reasonable dispatch, but also reasonable concern for security. There's also the simple Make Contact signal, which says take your time and be absolutely certain you don't attract attention and aren't being watched. And then there's the Make Contact with Utmost Haste signal, which means drop everything and grab the nearest phone regardless. I went through the motions of thanking the captain and mate for a fine day, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I hoped they didn't notice. They'd been very considerate to a clumsy beginner at the sport. Stepping ashore, I couldn't help feeling a slight resentment. This was unreasonable. Certainly there had been times when I'd been snatched back to work unceremoniously after being promised a lengthy leave, but this wasn't one of them. I'd had most of the summer free. I was in no position to complain. Nevertheless, I couldn't help wishing that I'd either managed to land that big marlin this afternoon, or that Mac had held off a day or two and let me hook into another one. I walked along the pier and up the hill, past the swimming pool to the main building, and went into the office to do a little research on the problem of communications. The telephone company does not, of course, run its wires to islands 100 miles out in the Atlantic. I knew the club had radio facilities, you could see the mast far out at sea, and kept some kind of schedule. I knew they could probably, therefore, get me any number in the U.S. by way of the nearest marine operator on the mainland. However, since any radio-equipped boat between here and there could presumably listen in, it seemed like a hell of a public way of chatting with Washington on subjects that would probably prove to be very private indeed. I was selling Mac short. He'd taken care of everything. The girl at the desk, a slight, friendly-looking redhead with freckles, looked up quickly. "Oh, Mr. Helm," she said. "Any luck today?" "We hooked a good-sized blue, but I couldn't bring him in," I said. "Oh, that's too bad," she said. "I mean, it's really too bad, because I have a message for you from Mr. Starkweather, Jonas Starkweather, editor of Outdoors magazine. It just came in. He's going to be in Fort Lauderdale tomorrow night, and he would like you to have dinner with him. He says it's important. Something about some pictures he needs very badly." At an earlier period in my life, I'd made my living with a camera, with an occasional assist from a typewriter. It was a